Hello and welcome to Matador News. I am Victoria Lopez.
And I'm Alex Corey. Campus police are on alert after 2 incidents of groping were reported. A stranger who asked for a hug reportedly approached the victim and then grabbed her rear end. CSUN Captain Alfredo Fernandez says there are ways to prevent these kinds of incidents.
Well, you know, the important thing to remember in this particular situation was that the male approached the female in an area where they appeared to only be alone. So one of the first things we always say is try to stay, you know, in a location where you're with other people. That's always helpful. The other portion that's kind of a concern in this area is that the suspect actually requested the physical contact in the form of a hug, and the student actually got up to accept the hug. So let's, you know, one of the things that we really want to talk about is if you don't know the person, let's avoid physical contact with them.
CSUN police released this sketch of the subject, who is described as being a Hispanic male in his mid-20s and about 5.5 feet tall. Captain Fernandez says suspicious activity should be reported immediately to the department.
CSUN Center on Disabilities' 29th Annual International Technology Conference will be held March 22nd in San Diego. We have Sandy Plotin in our Sundial studio with more information.
Thanks, guys. Here in the studio, we have Sandy Plotin, who is the Managing Director for the Center on Disabilities here at CSUN. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you, Romy.
Welcome. So, Sandy, the 29th Annual International Technology and Persons with Disabilities Conference, also known as the CSUN Conference, is coming up. Could you please tell us a little bit about this huge event?
Sure, and let me say first of all, thank you for letting me come on here to talk about it, because it's the biggest kept secret on campus, and we want everybody to know about it. The conference started 29 years ago on campus with just 40 sessions and 25 exhibitors, and there was not much back then for technology or any kind of event, so Dr. Harry Murphy, who was the coordinator for the Office of Students with Disabilities, started this conference here to bring together researchers, families, educators, and manufacturers, anybody who's involved with disabilities and technology, to have an inclusive forum for everybody. And from there, it's grown into an amazing event.
And also, could you tell us why this event is called the CSUN Conference?
Well, first of all, it's the oldest, longest running, and only university-sponsored conference of its type. So everybody associates it with CSUN, and of course the name is so long nobody can remember how to say it, and it started on campus. So it's commonly known as the CSUN Conference, and if you read about us or you check our website, you'll see lots of people referring to it as the CSUN Conference. And probably after our 30th anniversary next year, we will be shortening the title and including CSUN in it, so everybody knows that it comes from this campus.
Well, thank you so much. It was great having you.
Thank you very much.
Now back to you.
New York City Mayor holds a press conference after yesterday's Manhattan explosion.
As we know, there's been a confirmed additional loss of life, but we are continuing rescue operations, hoping to find others still alive.
The massive explosion killed at least 6 people and injured more than 40. Authorities are investigating the cause of the blast, but ties lead to a gas leak. New York company Con Edison received a complaint about the smell of gas, but the explosion occurred before teams could investigate the claim. Firefighters tore through the rubble in search of survivors. The explosion also formed a sinkhole in front of the collapsed building, which has complicated the firefighters' search for survivors and debris removal.
2 people have been killed at the popular cultural festival South by Southwest in Austin, Texas. An alleged drunk driver drove a car into a crowd while fleeing police. At least 23 people were hospitalized in addition to the 2 that were killed. Austin Police Chief Art Acevedo says the suspect is in custody and faces 2 counts of capital murder, among other counts.
We cannot allow one individual who, through his selfish acts, cared only about one person, that was himself, to ruin a wonderful event, a worldwide event, a celebration of life, a celebration of music. And I think if you were to cancel events, it would be a victory for evil and not a victory for humanity.
Police say the suspect was driving the wrong way on a one-way street. South by Southwest says they will make changes to programming in the area of the incident.
The search for the missing Malaysian jetliner continues to raise questions. Authorities have been searching for the nearly 6 days with no results. The plane disappeared near Southeast Asia while flying from Kuala Lumpur to Beijing. Malaysian authorities have denied a recent report by the Wall Street Journal saying the plane may have continued flying for 4 more hours after losing contact with air traffic control. The report says Rolls-Royce, the manufacturer of the plane's engine, has an onboard monitoring system which receives data from the airline. But Malaysian authorities say Rolls-Royce stopped receiving contact shortly before air traffic controllers did. Chinese satellite images posted online recently appeared to show large objects floating near the plane's flight path. Aircraft and ships were dispatched to the area, but nothing found.
A New Jersey high school student who is suing her parents is home after a 4-month absence. Rachel Canning is suing her parents for high school and college tuition, current living and transportation expenses, as well as reimbursement for legal fees. Her parents said she left home because she refused to obey the rules. A judge denied her request for high school tuition and living expenses. Even though Rachel is returning home, she is still suing, claiming extreme pressure from her parents and the media. But her parents' attorney says this situation is resolved.
An Arizona man has been arrested after fatally stabbing his 12-year-old half-brother because he says he just felt like killing. The bloodied man, Andrew Ward, walked to a convenience store to call 911 and told the dispatcher that he had stabbed someone. A clerk at the convenience store said Ward looked shaky and scared before police came and arrested him with guns drawn. Ward was booked on suspicion of first-degree murder.
President Obama and Ukraine's prime minister are warning Russia to remove its troops.
We have been very clear that we consider the Russian incursion into Crimea outside of its bases to be a violation of international law.
Ukraine says it wants to remain on friendly terms with Russia in the future, but the presence of Russian troops are infringing on Ukraine's sovereignty. Ukraine's ministry accused Russia of a military invasion and occupation. Ukraine's parliament also sent a plea to the UN to step in and form a solution to the conflict.
Undocumented immigrant families are asking to be let into the U.S. today at the border, claiming their families have been broken by U.S. immigration policies. Up to 150 people are asking for humanitarian parole or political asylum from the U.S., in some cases entire families. On Monday, about 40 people were processed at the port of the entry in Otay Mesa near San Diego. Many of the participants have been deported or have family members who have been deported. The protest action is led by the National Immigrant Youth Alliance, a nonprofit advocate run by undocumented youth in the U.S. and abroad.
California geology officials are holding a public hearing in downtown L.A. to discuss the dangers of the Cascadia subduction zone and Alquis Priolo earthquake fault zoning maps. The Cascadia subduction zone may cause a 9.0 earthquake that could cost $70 million in damage. Scientists believe the Cascadia zone may be more dangerous than San Andreas. The zoning maps show planned developments in Hollywood are close to an active earthquake fault. The Hollywood fault could rupture into a magnitude 7 earthquake and could sever a building.
CSUN students say they are not fully prepared for an earthquake.
What I would do to prepare for an earthquake, I would probably gather some water and maybe some unperishable foods. You know, get ready for an apocalypse. But right now, I wouldn't consider myself prepared for an earthquake, unfortunately.
In preparation of an earthquake, I would probably go to Costco and buy some bottled water and some cans, probably some fruit and some essentials.
I don't really think you can prepare for an earthquake, to be honest. For a tornado, you could buy a lot of water, a lot of food. You know, you could prepare for a blackout, but earthquake is, if my house falls down, it's kind of just it.
The American Red Cross recommends a family have a disaster plan and emergency preparedness kit, and for at least one family member to be trained in first aid.
3 people are dead and 1 trooper is in critical condition after a string of weather-related incidents on the Ohio Turnpike. 50 cars were involved in the 2-mile stretch between Toledo and Cleveland. Troopers have shut down the turnpike in both directions, backing up traffic for miles. The 29-year-old trooper was responding to the scene when he was pinned between 2 vehicles. Other Northeast states are also being affected by the latest winter storm.
And now we have Carolina Najarro with the latest business.
Thank you, Victoria. Obama gets in some retail therapy at the Gap this week. Obama shopped for his family at a New York City Gap in show of support for the company's recent decision to raise its minimum wage. Gap CEO Glenn Murphy says the company will start paying its U.S. workers at least $9 an hour by June of this year and $10 an hour by June of next year. The new pay scale will apply to both full-time and part-time employees. The Federal Trade Commission will be investigating the California-based company Herbalife. The investigation was pushed by Hispanic groups who have raised questions about the company's marketing program, calling it a pyramid scheme. The 34-year-old multi-million-dollar company sells diet shakes, nutritional supplements, and cosmetics through distributors who hope to make profit. Herbalife is confident that they are in compliance with laws and regulations and will cooperate with the FTC. Dow Jones Industrial Average has dropped. This despite positive economic data showing a pickup in retail and a drop in unemployment. Concerns over possible economic slowdown in China and tension in Ukraine are also weighing down the global markets. The Dow has now fallen for 3 consecutive days. NASDAQ broke its 4th-day losing streak at last check. The Dow Jones dropped to 217 points and NASDAQ fell to 64. And now back to you, Alex.
Thanks, Catalina. And now let's go to Courtney Wallace for the latest on health.
The European Union wants the U.S. to ban the use of European names on cheese made in the United States. They say American-made cheeses affect the sales and identity of European cheeses. Europeans are saying Parmesan should only come from Parma, Italy, and feta from Greece. U.S. dairy producers, cheesemakers, and food companies are all fighting the idea. They believe it could take a toll on the $4 billion industry and infinitely confuse consumers. Women can now have an alternative to Pap smear test for HPV. An FDA panel voted unanimously on Wednesday to begin DNA testing in place of the Pap smears. The DNA test will screen for the 2 most dangerous strains of HPV. The HPV virus is known to cause the majority of cervical cancers. And now, back to you, Victoria.
And now let's go to Carolina Najarro with entertainment.
Thank you, Victoria. Walt Disney Records has announced an upcoming album remixing 14 of their film's most memorable songs. The album titled Deconstructed is currently set to release April 22nd. Songs being updated include Circle of Life from The Lion King, The Muppet Show theme, and Oscar-winning song Let It Go from Frozen. Those adding an electro-infused feel include Avicii, Cascade, Armin van Buuren, and more. We can now be happy about smelling like Grammy-winning producer Pharrell Williams. Pharrell has teamed up with Comme des Garçons to launch a unisex fragrance. The fragrance will hit store shelves in September. And now back to you.
Now let's go to Courtney with sports.
The deal is official. The New York Jets have agreed to sign wide receiver Eric Decker. The Jets are giving the former Broncos wide receiver a 5-year, $36 million deal, including $15 million guaranteed. Questions are being raised after his performance in the Super Bowl with the Broncos. An official date for his signing has not been released. Goodbye, Peyton Manning, and hello, Geno Smith. Kobe says he will be out the rest of the season because of a fractured left knee. With Kobe out, the Lakers will get a high lottery pick. The longtime Laker has 2 years left of his contract. Rumors that the legendary coach Phil Jackson was going to return to save the Lakers from their losing streak were quickly silenced. Jackson decided to leave Los Angeles to become the New York Knicks president of all operations. His contract is believed to be for more than $15 million per season and could include team ownership. Here at CSUN, students say they are worried about their favorite team.
Phil Jackson left the Lakers a few seasons ago. I think it was 3 or 4 years. So I know a lot of people are kind of getting on his head for joining the Knicks, and they feel like he betrayed the Lakers. But, you know, he was out the NBA. We let him go. We gave him his passage out, and now he's trying to get back in and do something bigger.
I pretty much blame D'Antoni for the downfall because he was never a good coach, even in Phoenix. And he came to the Lakers and he just didn't do anything, and none of the players want to run his offense. Even Kobe said that he doesn't want to play under D'Antoni, so I blame him for it.
The Lakers' next game is tonight against Oklahoma City Thunder. The London Zoo has welcomed 3 of the world's rarest tigers. 5-year-old Sumatran tigress Melody gave birth to the tiger cubs after 106 days of labor. The cuddly baby cubs are not on display to the public, but their birth was captured by hidden camera, and every move since is being filmed using remote camera technology. The cubs and their mother are being held in cubbing den, with their mother only separating for her feedings. And now, back to you, Victoria.
That's all, and thank you for joining us here at Matador News. I'm Alex Corey.
And I'm Victoria Lopez. Bye now.